The silent watchers, the ancient observatory awakens in the depths of space. Where starlight barely touched the ancient metal, Observatory Station Eternal had maintained its silent vigil for 12 million years. Its crystalline sensors stretched across dimensions, monitoring the pulse of civilizations throughout the galaxy. Observer Prime Zenth, a being of living crystal and pure thought, had watched over this sector since before most stars were born. Nothing had surprised him in the last million cycles until today. The energy signature blazing across his sensors defied every law of physics he understood. From the Sol system, that unremarkable yellow star in the outer spiral arm, came readings that made his crystalline matrix crack with disbelief. The third planet, a violent death world of shifting continents and poisonous atmosphere, had somehow produced something impossible, faster than light travel, the emergency gathering within hours. Quantum messages raced across the galaxy. The Council of Whispers, a secret organization of advanced civilizations, had not convened an emergency session in 50,000 years. Now, representatives from 43 species materialized in the hidden dimension chamber, their forms flickering with nervous energy. High Chancellor Viridian, her elongated form draped in robes of living light, called the assembly to order. Her species, the Luminari, had guided galactic development for eons through careful manipulation and patient guidance. Never had they encountered a situation like this. Fellow Watchers, her voice resonated through quantum frequencies. We face an unprecedented crisis. The species from Sol 3 have achieved interstellar capability. A wave of shocked silence swept through the chamber. Commander Thale, representing the military confederation of 12 warrior species, slammed his massive fist against the crystalline table. His exoskeleton gleamed with built-in weapons systems, each one capable of destroying small moons. Impossible, he growled through his translator matrix. Our models show that Deathworld species burn themselves out before achieving spaceflight. The mathematical certainty is 99.97%. Dr. Zillith, the galaxy's foremost xenobiologist and member of the Peaceful Mentori Collective, floated forward on her anti-gravity platform. Her tentacles writhed with anxiety as she accessed the shared data streams. The mathematics were wrong, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Look at their planet. Gravity 1.0 standard, which should crush most life forms. Atmospheric oxygen at 21%, which is corrosive poison to 80% of known species. Weather systems so violent they regularly destroy entire continental regions. Geological activity that shifts landmasses constantly. She paused, her tentacles going completely still. And yet they not only survived, they thrived. In the time it took most species to develop basic agriculture, they went from stone tools to nuclear weapons to space travel. The Deathworld files Prime Zenth manifested his consciousness in the chamber, his crystalline form towering over the assembled delegates. For millions of years, he had been the galaxy's memory keeper, recording the rise and fall of civilizations. I have been watching them, he admitted, his voice carrying the weight of eons. At first, they seemed like any other developing species. But they were different. When ice ages came, they adapted. When volcanoes buried their cities, they rebuilt. When asteroids threatened extinction, they learned to track and deflect them. The holographic display in the center of the chamber flickered to life, showing images of human history. Pyramids rising from desert sands, cities rebuilding after wars, rockets piercing the sky, space stations orbiting their world. They call themselves humans, Zenth continued. And they do something no other species has ever done. They refuse to accept limitations as permanent. High Chancellor Viridians, light dimmed with worry. Show them the recent observations. The display shifted to show human colonies on worlds that should have been uninhabitable. Mars, with its thin atmosphere and freezing temperatures, now hosted thriving settlements. Europa's ice-locked surface hid growing underwater cities. Even Venus's crushing atmosphere and acid rain couldn't stop human terraforming efforts. They adapt their environments instead of adapting to them, Dr. Zillith observed, her voice filled with scientific fascination and primal fear. In 50 years, they've established footholds on 17 worlds. Worlds that would require our most advanced civilizations centuries of preparation to even visit. Commander Thal's weapons systems hummed with barely contained aggression. This cannot be allowed to continue. If they spread throughout the galaxy with their chaotic methods, they'll disrupt millions of years of careful development. They must be contained. The human question Ambassador Kethfa of the diplomatic corps materialized from his shadow form, his species having perfected the art of peaceful coexistence through careful non-inter. His voice carried the wisdom of diplomatic solutions refined over millennia. Perhaps we should consider communication before containment, he suggested carefully. They may be more reasonable than we assume. The chamber erupted in concerned chittering. Electromagnetic static and pheromone releases. Commander Thal's exoskeleton clanked as he turned toward the shadow diplomat. Reasonable. Tal's laugh was like grinding metal. Have you seen their entertainment? They glorify conflict, celebrate warriors, and create fictional scenarios where their species conquers the galaxy. They call it science fiction, but their own cultural productions reveal their true nature. Dr. Zillith's tentacles formed complex patterns of disagreement. You misunderstand their cultural expressions, Commander. Yes, they explore conflict in their art, but they also celebrate cooperation, sacrifice for others, and the triumph of knowledge over ignorance. Their literature speaks of peaceful contact with alien species, of learning from other civilizations. Their literature also speaks of war, Thale countered, of humans standing against impossible odds and somehow winning through sheer determination and violence. Observer Prime Zenth's crystal form pulsed with ancient authority. Both perspectives have merit, but consider this, in their entire recorded history, no external force has ever successfully conquered or permanently suppressed them. Every attempt at domination has ultimately failed. They are not a species that accepts defeat. The Watcher's fear High Chancellor Viridian raised her arms, calling for order. Her species had guided galactic development through careful manipulation, ensuring that aggressive species destroyed themselves before reaching the stars, while nurturing peaceful civilizations toward slow, stable growth. The question before us is not whether humans are good or evil, she said, her voice resonating with authority. The question is whether the galaxy is ready for a species that progresses through chaos rather than order, through adaptation rather than acceptance. The display shifted again, showing galactic maps with carefully maintained borders, trade routes that had remained stable for millennia, and the slow, predictable expansion of established civilizations. For 12 million years, we have maintained galactic stability through careful guidance, Viridian continued. We allow species to develop at sustainable rates, ensuring that technology advances alongside wisdom. That expansion comes with responsibility. Commander, Thale's weapons systems powered up slightly. These humans represent a fundamental threat to that stability. They solve problems through brute force application of will. They terraform worlds instead of finding suitable ones. They adapt their biology instead of accepting their limitations. They are chaos incarnate. But Dr. Zilith's tentacles writhed with a different emotion now, curiosity rather than fear. Yet their chaos produces results that our ordered methods take millennia to achieve. Their medical technology has eliminated diseases that still plague our most advanced worlds. Their energy systems are more efficient than anything we've developed. Their space travel is faster and safer than transportation methods we've refined for millions of years. The trap is set after hours of debate. High Chancellor Viridian called for a decision vote. The chamber fell silent as each representative considered the options. Direct military intervention, continued covert observation, or diplomatic contact under controlled conditions. Asterisk. Commander Thale spoke first. Military containment is impossible without massive galactic war. They're too adaptable, too resourceful. Even if we won, the cost would destabilize the galaxy. Ambassador Kethva emerged from shadow. Continued. Observation serves no purpose. They're expanding too rapidly. Soon, they'll encounter other species whether we guide that contact or not. Observer Prime Zent's crystal form rang with harmonic resolution. Then we choose controlled first contact, but not as equals seeking understanding. We present ourselves as the galaxy's established authority, with the power to grant or deny them access to the greater community. High Chancellor Viridian's form blazed with decision. We invite them to a meeting, but we do so from a position of overwhelming strength. We show them that the galaxy is already claimed, already ordered, and that their place within it must be earned through compliance with our established systems. Dr. Zilith's tentacles formed worried knots. And if they refuse, if they respond to ultimatums the same way they respond to natural disasters and impossible odds, the chamber fell silent. Every species present had achieved their place in the galaxy through careful diplomacy, patient development, and acceptance of natural limitations. None had experienced dealing with a species that treated the impossible as merely difficult. Commander Thal's exoskeleton hummed with grim certainty. Then we'll discover what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object, and pray to whatever powers guide the universe that the collision doesn't destroy us all. The quantum message was sent within the hour, transmitted on frequencies the humans had already demonstrated they could receive. An invitation to station harmony, positioned exactly halfway between human space and the galactic core. Neutral ground for a meeting that would determine the fate of both humanity and the galaxy's carefully maintained order. As the Council of Whispers dissolved back into shadow and light, each representative carried the same thought: after tomorrow, nothing would ever be the same again. Asterisk. The Deathworlders answered the human arrival station. Harmony had never hosted a meeting of such importance. The massive structure, built from crystallized starlight and quantum-locked metals, floated in the void between star systems like a jewel against velvet. Its corridors, designed to accommodate 43 different species' environmental needs, hummed with nervous energy. Captain Alina Rodriguez stood at the observation deck of the human vessel Endurance, watching the station grow larger through the viewport behind her. Her small but carefully chosen team prepared for what might be the most important diplomatic mission in human history. Impressive construction, commented Dr. Marcus Chen, the mission's xenobiologist and philosopher. His calm demeanor hid years of studying theoretical alien contact scenarios. The engineering required to maintain stable atmosphere for dozens of different species simultaneously is remarkable. Engineer Zara Okafor looked up from her scanner readings, her tools detecting energy signatures that shouldn't exist according to current human understanding of physics. Captain, they're using technologies we haven't even theorized yet. Gravity manipulation, matter conversion, and something that's reading like controlled time dilation. Alina nodded, her expression thoughtful rather than intimidated. At 42, she had led humanity's most ambitious exploration missions, establishing colonies and environments that should have been uninhabitable. The daughter of Mexican immigrants to Mars colony, she understood what it meant to thrive where others said life was impossible. They want to impress us, she observed. Show us how advanced they are, how much we need their guidance and approval. She turned from the viewport, her brown eyes holding the determination that had carried her through a dozen impossible situations. The question is, are they trying to help us or control us? The Galactic welcomed the docking bay that received the Endurance was a marvel of engineering that could have housed a small city. As the human delegation walked down the ramp, they found themselves facing representatives of 43 alien species, arranged in a carefully orchestrated display of galactic authority. High Chancellor Viridian stepped forward, her form radiating controlled luminescence that should have been overwhelming. Instead, Alina met her gaze steadily, having grown up under the harsh light of an unfiltered sun that would blind most of these species. Captain Rodriguez, Viridian's voice resonated through quantum frequencies translated into human speech. Welcome to Station Harmony. You stand before the Council of Whispers, guardians of galactic civilization for 12 million years. Alina inclined her head respectfully, but did not bow. Honored Chancellor, we're grateful for this opportunity to meet. Humanity has long wondered if we were alone in the universe. Today, we discover we've been part of a much larger community without knowing it. Commander Thale stepped forward, his massive exoskeleton designed to intimidate species into submission. Each weapon system on his form was visible, each one capable of destroying small moons. Alina looked up at him without flinching, having faced down sandstorms on Mars that could strip flesh from bone. Your species has been observed. Human Thale's voice was like grinding stone. Your expansion violates every principle of stable galactic development. You terraform worlds instead of finding suitable ones. You adapt environments instead of adapting to them. You progress through chaos rather than order. Dr. Chen stepped forward slightly, his academic curiosity overcoming diplomatic protocol. Commander, may I ask what principles guide stable galactic development? We've been working under the assumption that adaptation and growth were natural. Evolutionary drives. The Ultimatum Observer Prime Zenth manifested his consciousness more fully, his crystalline form towering over the humans. For millions of years, he had watched civilizations rise and fall, had seen the careful balance that kept the galaxy stable. Dr. Chen, his voice carried the weight of eons. Civilizations develop along predictable paths. They master their home world gradually, establish sustainable colonies slowly, advance their technology in harmony with their wisdom. This process takes millions of years but produces stable, peaceful species. He gestured toward the assembled aliens, each representing millennia of careful development. Your species has achieved in centuries what typically requires hundreds of millennia. Your expansion rate threatens the delicate balance we've maintained. Zara looked around the chamber, her engineer's mind cataloging the technologies on display. With respect, Observer Prime, shouldn't technological advancement be celebrated? Our rapid development has allowed us to solve problems that might have taken much longer through traditional methods. Hi, Chancellor. Viridian's form blazed brighter, her authority filling the chamber. Engineer Okafor, your rapid development came at the cost of nearly destroying your home world multiple times. Wars, pollution, resource depletion, climate disruption. You solved these problems through force rather than wisdom. Alina felt the weight of 43 species' attention focused on her small team. The moment felt similar to standing at the edge of Vallis Marineris on Mars, looking into an abyss that could kill her, knowing that the next step forward would determine everything. Honored delegates, she said, her voice carrying clearly through the atmospheric processors. You speak of force as if it were inherently destructive, but force can also be the energy that builds, that grows, that pushes beyond what seems possible. The chamber fell silent. Even the subsonic humming of the gas giant representatives stopped. The human philosophy Chen activated a small holographic projector, showing images of human history that the aliens had not seen. Not the wars and destruction, but the moments of breakthrough and discovery. You see chaos in our development, he said, but we see adaptation. When ice ages came, we didn't wait for the climate to change back. We learned to make fire, to build shelters, to preserve food through harsh winters. When diseases threatened us, we didn't accept them as natural limitations. We developed medicine, hygiene, eventually vaccines and genetic therapies. The hologram showed human cities rising from disaster zones, space stations growing around hostile worlds, terraforming projects, turning barren rocks into garden worlds. When our resources ran low, we didn't fight over what remained, Alina continued. We looked to the stars. When our population grew beyond our world's capacity, we didn't accept starvation as inevitable. We built new homes on worlds you consider uninhabitable. Zara stepped forward, her scanner still detecting impossible energy signatures around them. Every technology in this station represents solutions to problems. Gravity manipulation to overcome the limitations of planetary gravity. Matter conversion to eliminate resource scarcity. Controlled time dilation to extend the lifespan of your species. She looked directly at Commander Thal's weapon systems. Even your military technology represents adaptation to the problem of potential threats. The difference is, we develop these solutions when we need them, not over millions of years of careful preparation. The demonstration ambassador Kethva materialized from shadow, his diplomatic training recognizing something unprecedented in the humans' response. In millions of years of first contact protocols, no species had ever questioned the fundamental assumptions of galactic civilization. Captain Rodriguez, he said carefully, you speak of adaptation as if limitation is merely temporary. But surely even humans must accept that some barriers cannot be overcome. Alina smiled, an expression that somehow managed to be both reassuring and unsettling to species accustomed to predictable responses. Ambassador, 300 years ago, our best scientists proved mathematically that humans could never fly. 50 years later, we were building aircraft. 200 years ago, we proved that faster-than-light travel was physically impossible. Last month, we established our 17th interstellar colony. Dr. Chen's hologram shifted to show human children playing in low-gravity environments that should have crippled their bone development. Human farmers growing crops in soil that should have been toxic. Human cities thriving in the crushing depths of ocean worlds. The limitation isn't usually in what's possible, Alina continued. It's in what we believe is possible. When we encounter a problem that seems impossible to solve, we don't ask if we can solve it. We ask how long it will take and what we'll learn in the process. Commander Thal's weapons systems powered down slightly, his warrior instincts recognizing something that wasn't aggression but wasn't submission either. And what happens when you encounter a problem that truly cannot be solved? When even human determination meets absolute impossibility? Alina looked directly at the massive alien. Commander, her expression carrying the weight of her entire species' history. Commander Thale, we've been asking ourselves that question for 200,000 years. The answer is, we haven't found that problem yet. The Shift High Chancellor Viridian's luminescence flickered, the first sign of uncertainty she had shown in millennia. The careful script of first contact protocols, refined through thousands of previous meetings, had never encountered responses like this. Dr. Zilith floated forward, her tentacles writhing with scientific fascination, overcoming diplomatic caution. Captain Rodriguez, your species' adaptation rate suggests that you view the universe fundamentally differently than we do. Where we see natural laws, you see guidelines. Where we see limitations, you see temporary obstacles. Dr. Zilith replied, we see the universe as a place of infinite possibility, constrained only by our current understanding. Every natural law we've discovered has led to technologies that would have seemed magical to previous generations. Every limitation we've overcome has revealed new horizons we never imagined. Zara's scanner detected something changing in the energy signatures around them. The alien technologies that had seemed impossibly advanced were revealing their underlying principles as she observed them in operation. The really interesting thing, Zara said, looking around the chamber, is that every technology here solves problems we're currently working on, which means that given time, we'll probably develop similar solutions. The main difference is timeline. Observer. Prime Zent's crystalline form resonated with harmonic frequencies that hadn't been heard in millions of years. The sound of ancient certainties being questioned. Engineer Okafor, he said slowly, you suggest that your species will eventually match technologies that took us millions of years to develop. Zara nodded. Based on our current rate of advancement, probably within a few centuries, maybe sooner. If we have examples to study and understand. The new alliance, the chamber, filled with sounds of 43 species processing concepts that challenged everything they understood about development, progress, and the nature of civilization itself. High Chancellor Viridian's form dimmed as she entered deep consultation with the collective consciousness of her species. Commander Thal's weapons systems went completely offline as his warrior's assessment of the situation shifted from potential threat to unprecedented opportunity. Alina waited, understanding that she was witnessing something remarkable. The moment when an entire galactic civilization reconsidered its fundamental assumptions about growth, progress, and the nature of the possible. Finally, Ambassador Kethfer stepped forward from his shadow form, his voice carrying new harmonics of respect and curiosity. Captain Rodriguez, he said, the Council of Whispers has spent this meeting trying to determine whether humanity represents a threat to galactic stability or an opportunity for galactic growth. We now realize we've been asking the wrong question, Elena. Raised an eyebrow. What should we have been asking? High Chancellor Viridian stepped forward, her luminescence now warm rather than intimidating. We should have been asking whether the galaxy is ready to learn what becomes possible when you refuse to accept that impossible is permanent. Dr. Chen smiled, his academic mind recognizing the moment when theoretical became practical. Honored. Chancellor, we'd be honored to explore that question together. But not as students seeking approval from teachers, as colleagues working on the same puzzle from different angles. Observer Prime Zenth's crystal form chimed with frequencies of ancient wisdom accepting new possibilities. Dr. Chen, for 12 million years, I have been the galaxy's memory keeper. Today, I believe we begin writing an entirely new chapter of that memory. Commander Thale stepped forward, his massive form now radiating curiosity rather than threat. Captain Rodriguez, my species has perfected the art of war over millions of years. Your species seems to have perfected the art of making war unnecessary by making the impossible achievable. I would be honored to learn from each other. Alina looked around the chamber at 43 species who had entered this meeting as guardians of galactic order and were leaving as partners in galactic transformation. Honored delegates, she said, humanity has always believed that the best discoveries happen when different perspectives work together on the same problems. We've spent our entire history learning to cooperate despite our differences. Now we get to discover what becomes possible when that cooperation extends across species, across worlds, across the galaxy itself. As the meeting concluded and new partnerships began to form, one thought echoed through the minds of every being present. The galaxy would never be the same again, and for the first time in millions of years, that felt like the beginning of something wonderful rather than the end of something stable. The age of careful, controlled development was ending. The age of collaborative, unlimited possibility was about to begin. Asterisk.